All right, welcome to Digging for Wisdom. We have games this week, Diggsy. That's Diggsy. I'm Wizzy. We got games. Diggs is actually going to be at 3 games this week. I'm always at 3 games, so that's not a big deal. 3 games for Diggsy. We're cutting these lights on. I know we had Taps last week, and Diggs probably didn't want to talk too much Taps. Pretty interesting team there at Fort Worth All Saints. I was very impressed with their young D1 talent, but still, what we're
I like how you throw that to me like I have a comment to make. You know?
Anything to say on All Saints?
Anything to say? I mean, I kept saying the name Noah Tarrant, like an El Paso guy, and so some big names there. And then I saw a 69-66 or 66-63 game with Argyle Liberty Christian and Midland Christian. If a West Texas team comes out down here and walks us off, I want nothing to do with you.
Yeah, man. Especially you have 4 touchdown lead there, right? They were up 42-14 at one point. And their old coach is standing on the sideline watching it, wondering, man, I got to rip Cooper out of here and take him up to Oklahoma. But it happens. It's week 1. We'll figure it all out. One thing I did like about the fact of week 1 game last week was there was not nearly as many flags as I usually see in week 1. Now, I'm anticipating that to change this week, especially if I'm going to 3 games. But last Friday, we just went right through that game with maybe about 5 to 10 flags. It's not nearly as many as I usually see. Or dehydration timeouts for the cramping and whatnot. So that was pretty cool. But let's talk about this week, buddy boy. And let's talk about what we're going to talk about this week, which is week 1 football and all the new tricks and trinkets that my main man Diggsy's bringing to the table for this podcast.
I like that we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about. I like that. We have a lot of talking about. And it must be hot, Ward. We must be to the point where you're not even wearing a hoodie. I mean, usually you keep a nice hoodie on, 100-degree weather, you got a hoodie, but 110, that's your line. I guess if it's 110, you can't deal with anything about that. But it is a new season. We're having a new season preview. And Ward, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions because this is the first year, and maybe you can talk about what happened in 2008 or something. I don't know the history of game day productions, but this is the first year I remember in a long time where you went a full 52. Like you did not take a week off. It was going on. What are your challenges? I think we all when you pull back the curtain, what were your challenges in having a 52-week slate that never stopped?
Yeah, well, you know what the biggest challenge was? There's no games going on. So this is a highlight-driven show, so what am I putting in there for those 2 months that there's no games going on? But, we've been around for we're in our 31st year this year. I came along in 06, so I've been here for about 20 of them on this part of the show for those 20 years. But every year, whoever the sponsor is at the time, they come running to us 2 weeks before the season, take this big check. I know you're going to like it. Give us the best you can give us, and we do it. And the day after the basketball state tournament comes and goes, they're like, go ahead and give me that check back, and we'll see you in August. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there with 5 months working on other people's shows. But we had Whataburger this year, and this past year. Whataburger said, hey, listen, let's do this thing for 52 weeks. And Diggsy, you've said millions of times, I got a Houston show as well, and we're going to do that in Houston as well. Chevy got on board and said, hey, let's do that in Houston as well. So it was great. That's more money and more exposure for other sports. But now we're talking about sports that I have not covered since I left my other spots, like Buffalo and Richmond, Virginia, where I was at. I haven't covered
playing ice hockey. Were you covering ice hockey out there in Buffalo?
Hockey.
What do you do? Curling? What do you do up there in Buffalo?
Covering hockey in Buffalo, covering NASCAR in Richmond. These are sports I haven't covered in a long time. So now all of a sudden I'm introducing myself to new coaches, new sports. They're seeing me come out with the camera like, hey, where were you in 2014? Like you said, I got to explain the whole story again. But it's been great. We've gotten a lot of interaction on our social medias with the new sports, and they're obviously the coaches that have come in for their Coach of the Year awards and some of the players that have gotten their bobbleheads there. Just super appreciative that we're finally getting them the exposure that they deserved. And then we come to the time that you were talking about, which was mid-June to beginning of August. Like, what are we going to do? Well, we got a guy that's an expert like Diggsy. We're going to put him on the TV. And we threw you on for a good, 9 episodes? 9 episodes of me and you breaking down districts, and that took a lot of the time. But a lot of these former athletes that we have seen, and they've gone on to college and gone on to pros, but they start coming back for their camps. So I start going to find them. We found Billy Bowman Jr., Cade Cunningham, and Tyrese Maxey, and all these guys that come back for camps. And find out their memories of the high school sports here in Dallas, and they wouldn't come back if they didn't love their school and love the area. And they're hoping to bring the newest branch of squad of kids coming up and maybe get to where they're at. And we just did a lot of stuff, and we ended up in the AAU circuit a little bit, the volleyball circuit. They got all-state volleyball. We actually went to Indianapolis for some volleyball championships, softball championships, finding sports, meeting new people, finding where are they now pieces on. We did something on Rex Burkhead and Graham Harrell, which we really enjoyed doing as well. It's been fun. I was worried, but thanks to my man Diggs, he always pulls me out of the fire. He gave me, I have 19 minutes of content in a show each week, and Diggs goes ahead and takes about 5 to 7 minutes of those. And I was like, I'm very appreciative of you, Diggs. So thanks for sticking in there for me. But we made it through 52 weeks for the first time a couple weeks ago. Started our new season last week or 2 weeks ago. And so we're back in it. Now that we have games coming, it's a lot easier to fill a show when there's games, because that's what people want to see. And they're a lot easier to shoot than trying to manufacture sports when there's no high school going on.
Well, what we got to know is you're talking about where are they, but I mean, I feel like we need an updated thing because I was, we taped this on Sunday, and Friday we're seeing highlights of Duncanville, Cedar Hill, and South Oak Cliff, and Jalen Brewster I think he got a sack on his very first play, and then Saturday I'm hearing that Buford is playing some Gainesville team on national TV, and then all of a sudden we're getting updates that Jalen Brewster is now at Buford. Like if he was playing in that game, it would be like old WCW where one shows up on one show and then on Monday they go to the other show. What's going on, Ward? Where we're seeing players crossing state lines on
Right.
Friday to Saturday.
It's wild, man. I told you we had a list of 5 players that we wanted to get on a couple of different shows, our national show and our local show, and 3 of them have taken off on me. Colton Nussmeyer was one, John Meredith's going to Texas now, and now Jalen Brewster, which is a real shocker to me. And until you start thinking about the NIL world, it's a race to get to that first paycheck. And it didn't seem like from some of the articles that I was reading that Cedar Hill was really going to let him graduate early, or at least help contribute to him graduating early by working the schedule so he can get some classes in. So he didn't want to wait till May to get that first check. If you can break out early and head over to Georgia, maybe that check comes to you early.
Yeah, and I can't blame any of these players. And I think this is what's going to be the change as we kind of see over the next 4 to 5 years. I saw people on social media talking about how Nike, when they do their Nike camps and things like that, they can even give some sponsorships and some NIL money early, but none of the Texas players were able to take it. And so therefore you didn't see any of the Texas players as represented on those Nike camps and Nike circuits. But Florida, Georgia, specifically Georgia, I know Georgia allows NIL money at an early age. I don't know what that's going to do for him. Obviously we don't get into that level of what is this player worth as a senior versus a sophomore. I barely know what they're worth as going into college, but I know it's 7 digits. And when you get into 7 digits, and I know some of the phrases you've told me that I really don't understand is you're hearing coaches talking about agents are talking to
Right.
them. Like, what does that mean? Like, agents are talking to coaches right now, and how that impacts things. And I know coaches are kind of used to doing things a certain way. I mean, I can't imagine John King over in Longview taking calls from agents and having much patience for any
Right.
of that mess. But at the same time, he's an evolving coach, and he understands that you got to do what you got to do to keep people happy. Apparently now you got to keep agents happy. They just got to go talk to those basketball coaches, because apparently you talked about how you're on the AAU circuit. That's something I guess basketball coaches have probably been used to for a little while. They got to talk to them and say, hey, how do we deal with this stuff?
And if you read the Greg Riddle article, I mean, he's talking about Nick Ward didn't even know he had transferred yet. I mean, imagine the hole that leaves you. You would think that he knew something was going on, but if he didn't know he had transferred, imagine the hole that leaves a team like Cedar Hill to have a big mammoth guy like that. It'll take 2 players to replace what he can do on the field. And now we're talking about 4 or 5 days from the opening game. I believe you had him at finishing 3rd or 4th right in that district. I don't know if that changes your opinion or what.
I had him second, and then
Second.
kind of off season, I moved him to third over Lancaster, which I would absolutely do now
Yeah.
because I think Lancaster is better than them without Jalen Brewster. They lost a really good running back to Anna, and now losing Brewster is just a unfathomable loss. We talked about how close that district is for a playoff spot. I could see Cedar Hill if they had one injury or something. Quarterback doesn't really pan out the way they were expecting, they could fall completely out of the playoff race.
Yeah, we last week we talked about teams that were when I was first got to town were stellar teams like Martin and Trinity, and now we talk every time we talk about them, we're like, okay, are they going to make the postseason? Where are they going to fall in the postseason? I think you can put Cedar Hill in that too. When I was here, when I first got here, Cedar Hill was where are they going to finish? How far deep in the playoffs are going to go? And now it's are they going to make the postseason over the last 3-4 years?
Yeah. And other big news, I know you saw it, Ward, that I got to go a little viral this past week. Me and DeSoto have quite the relationship. I've now been on Sports Center because of DeSoto for two different reasons, for two different times now. But you saw that Sarad Baker run that we had.
Incredible.
Talk about an absolutely incredible run, especially given one of our last memories. I know you watched the CE King game. I fast forwarded through that because that was a bunch of ugly football. I was like, I don't even care about this game. That state championship game against South Lake Carroll, my last memory before I was told it's the end of an era, and that kind of
Somebody told me.
Promo that he shot on me. That again, Sarad Baker going 99 on South Lake Carroll to put the exclamation point. And I know it's just a scrimmage, but man, to do that against North Forney and just roll through that and the way he did, that was absolutely a Sports Center moment. It should be out every moment. But Sarad Baker, I mean, a player, he kind of reminds me of Nikita Whitlock as far as just a player who may not have all the stars because he's not 6'5" and meets all these things. He is just a football playing dude. I mean, like you just give him the ball and he will find a way to make magic. And it is so hard to bet against him, which is going to be why I'm have such a hard time when we're talking about on this podcast that I might have to pick against DeSoto against this Florida team in a little bit. But sorry, a little bit of a teaser as we get closer to things. But man, Sarad Baker, again, just doing Sarad Baker things on the big thing. And you and a lot of other people I was reading, it made it on a Barstool and a couple other things, were talking about the tackling. There's two to that. But again, North Forney, they had to deal with Legend Bay last year. And I'm sure they were having to deal with those kind of situations in practice all the time. But I just think it's a special player. I think, you could talk about tackling, and I'm sure Shavers will have the tackling drills out coming up this week. But Sarad Baker, just special talent.
And he can give it to you however you want it. I mean, you look at both of those 99-yard runs; they're completely different. One is a blow right through the middle and he's gone. You're not going to catch him. Another is 7 people have him over to the sideline and he just refuses to go down. Another guy has him, refuses to go down. Everybody's going to say you're making too much out of scrimmage, but that's just a synopsis of what he did all playoff long last year. And that's not even talking about the first 10 games when you jumped on him, I think, game 2. The guy is something special. And like I said, we're going to have a story in like 2 weeks on him. He's got a great backstory as well. So he's going to be fun to watch the rest of this season, the whole season, I should say. And then Joey McGuire gets himself a good one over there at Texas Tech.
Yeah, I think we're going to see him for 16 weeks, pretty much.
Looks like
it's going to have some big numbers. And the compliment I kept seeing thrown about him is beast mode. I mean, when you as a high school senior are being compared to Marshawn Lynch, I mean that is high praise.
That's exactly what that run looked like. It looked very Marshawn Lynch against the Saints run. If you get a chance to see that one, compare them both, put them both at the same time. He's a special player, and that's going to be able to ease whatever the quarterback. It's what Jaden Shaw is. Yep. He's going to be in there behind center. So, and he didn't need much time to get used to it. He did good things over there at Lamar. So, I don't know. Like you said, 16 weeks. I can't wait for the week 15 game or 14 whenever they play a Lone Star, Denton Ryan, or Highland Park or whoever it is. It's going to be fun.
And another thing that we talked about, Ward, and I know we're excited about, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, is my AI model and how it's generating point spreads, and it's at like an 85% accuracy. So if I could get a little drum roll, please just mentally think about a drum roll if you're listening to a podcast at home. We have week 1 point spreads and scores, and you can see it right there going across the ticker. It's going to just roll across and we got all of them. If Ward remembers to hit the next button and next
I
button and
remember.
next
I
button,
always remember.
he always remembers. We got him trained on the Friday night show when we were doing that ticker. So if you are just you're tired, you don't want to listen to us anymore, just stare at that bottom. We got your DFW point spread from the AI model that is one of the best in the business. Now on week one, it's only at 73 to 76%. So you just know that week one, we're all still figuring things out. And I disagree with, I'm looking at some of these things and I'm looking at that like, that's trash. That's trash. How dare my model that I'm putting my name on, pick this or pick that. So we're going to see. I'm going to compete. I'm going to compete against my own model. Like right now, I'm seeing Anna at Colleyville Heritage. That's trash. Anna's going to beat Colleyville Heritage convincingly, I believe. They've last 2 years in the playoffs. They have. I don't know what Colleyville Heritage is coming back that makes the model think all of a sudden that they've got better than Anna, who has got one of the better classes coming in. So I don't always agree.
You're getting Coach Edwards riled up already. He's already been riled up over the summer.
Well, he was already mad because of the scrimmage thing,
exactly.
Because apparently that unaffiliated account pushed that upset time.
Yes.
He didn't like that. I didn't post it. It was one of it. To go talk to your student base who's posting that stuff about upsetting Melissa in a scrimmage or whatnot. But again, I mean, people were talking about that they looked good in that scrimmage, but you're gonna have to look really good to take Anna on, because Anna looked really good in their scrimmage against Frisco Heritage as well. I got to see some of the footage of that. So over while we're talking about all the games we're going to talk about, just look down, look up at us, look down, and you can see your scrolling tag, because it is week one. It is our best guess. I'm getting choked up over it all. And
you always get choked up when the season starts, doesn't it?
All we can do is talk about it. So that's what we're going to do.
Well, let's start by talking about it. We got games. We got a game that you're going to be at. We got a game that I won't be at because Pat Doney stole it, but it's probably the headliner. I would say it's definitely the headliner. Allen and Duncanville, they both finished off Allen finished their season against them last year, and Duncanville finished theirs against North Shore. But let's talk about this one because they get it back. They get it up at Eagle Stadium.
One of the things that was going viral on social media, and I was checking on Instagram. I'm trying to widen my social media footprint out there. Last year, I did some Facebook groups and got some really good insight. And this year, I'm trying to focus my Instagram game. And on Instagram, apparently something that I saw a lot more there than I was kind of talking on Twitter about, or X or whatever we want to call it these days, where there are a lot of people posting scrimmage scores. And there were a lot of people mocking people posting scrimmage scores. I was one of the mockers. But one of the scores that came up that I was just like laughing at, like, oh, that's completely ridiculous, was a graphic of a North Crowley guy sitting on a Benz, and it said, North Crowley 90, Allen 21. And I'm like, 90 to 21. And then I started, people were talking about it, and parents that were there were like, yeah, we scored 13 touchdowns against Allen. And I was like, maybe that's JV and, JV twos and four teamers, because Allen's got 28 teams, and maybe they scrimmaged for 8 hours, and that's how you got 13 touchdowns out of that. But then I saw a clip of Allen's coach talking to his players like, yo, what did he get hit in the face? You just got hit in the face. And I'm like, okay, maybe there's something to this whole North Crowley just stomped a mud hole in him and walked a dry stone cold thing that we saw. But I remember last year everybody said the same thing happened, that North Crowley beat him up in the scrimmage, and then when it was time in week 14 they played again. Allen was able to take care of business. So, maybe they needed that to learn a little bit, but it took them 13 or 14 weeks to get there. And then I'm kind of seeing the same thing about Duncanville. Duncanville apparently looked really bad against Euless Trinity in week one, kind of their pre-scrimmaging, the week 0, week -1. I don't even know what you want to call it. These teams that don't play spring ball, you get 2 scrimmages. Right. So Duncanville didn't play spring ball, so they got 2 scrimmages. They're playing Euless Trinity. And people said they couldn't get anything going on against Euless Trinity's defense. And then I read that they were looking a little bit better, but everybody was talking about how good South Oak Cliff looked in that 3-way scrimmage with Cedar Hill and South Oak Cliff, and people were kind of dismissing Duncanville. So you've got 2 teams that are looking at things like our scrimmage season. not so great,
Right.
and so we got something to prove here. So I'm kind of looking at that, and I was looking for a little bit of an edge, like, okay, how can I look at Allen? How can I look at Duncanville? And if you remember, Ward, last year when Allen and Duncanville played in the state semifinal, I took Allen, and
Mm-hmm.
Duncanville just whooped them.
Whoop
And
'em.
and the thing that I was really impressed by and kind of disappointed in myself, and I'm trying to get better at this, and people are talking about sizes and trenches or whatnot. Allen looks small against Duncanville. When I looked at everybody all year, Allen looked bigger than the team, and they looked more physical than the team. But when they got against the size and speed of Duncanville, all of a sudden it's like now we're going from Big 12 to SEC football, or we're going from kind of the preseason, the threes and the fours to the ones and the twos when we're starting to look at the big players. And I don't think Allen got much bigger over the offseason. I don't think Duncanville got much smaller in the
Mm-mm.
offseason. So I think when we're looking at that, we're going to see that early, that Duncanville is going to, have that size and speed advantage over Allen, who has just gotten taken to the woodshed by North Crowley. And I think one thing that is a true intangible that a lot of places don't have, but Allen does have, is a true home field advantage. I
Yeah.
mean, it is going to be 15, 17,000. It's going to be wrapped around. The student section is going to be crazy. So I think if there's one thing that Allen is going to have going for them, it is going to be a situation where all the community is going to come out for Allen and throw their weights behind them. But that being said, I can't pick against a team that beat a team just 2 games ago by 3 scores. I don't think, even though we've had an off season, we've had a lot of graduation, that they're going to get better. I think Trenton Yancey is really the key for this, because last year they used him in so many different
Right.
packages that he was
Against
really
Allen too.
against Allen. Like how are you going to stop him? Now you got Denson coming back. I think he's been cleared to play. I saw the Dallas Morning News wrote an article that that Samples has not named a day one. It's Denson. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and say that. I don't have a specific email from Samples telling me that, but it's Denson. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. But I think you got Yancey, you got Braden Arnold, you got Denson. There are a lot of questions that I feel like Allen is going to have to answer. I think Allen's going to go blow for a half, but in the fourth quarter, they're going to get worn down. I think Duncanville's size and Samples really preaching how we get better. We play the 16 weeks. And I think Allen is now getting on board with that. Because if I remember right, the last season they had Cedar Hill and Midland Legacy. Now it's Midland Lee in their non-district before their 8 district games started. Now they're playing DeSoto, Duncanville, and South Lake Carroll as their
Yeah.
3 non-district games. I think Coach Wigginton understands you have to do that to be ready to compete in week 15 and week 16. And that's what Duncanville was able to do. Because Duncanville didn't blink. They lost to Waxahachie in the regular season. Oh, well, we're looking at it bigger, and we're looking at it better. And Waxahachie, when it came time to play in week 13, week 14, they took care of business. So Duncanville, I feel like they just have a pressure off situation. They're here to get better, and I think they're already better. So I'm taking Duncanville to take care of business, like a 28-21 kind of a game.
Okay. I was thinking a couple scores there, and what you brought up last week about Reginald, him and Randy Allen, they wouldn't be back if they didn't know they had something special. Especially Coach Samples. The man's in pain. It's tough for him to be on the sidelines, but he knows he has something special. It's hard to give that thing up. Heck, he's out there writing books too, and he's writing books about his experience. So I'm thinking the same thing. Don't pay too close attention to that point spread. That's the AI model. I think Duncanville wins by 7-10. All right, let's move on to the next game, which is North Crowley at home against Lido. They're getting a taste of some 6A action here. Before we start here, like you had mentioned earlier, Alita was supposed to be in this district and all our metrics. Hey, they should be in there with North Crowley. They're pretty close. And then we were worried about their district winning streak. We're not as worried about it anymore because they're in with the Arlington schools, but they're going to get a taste of North Crowley right off the bat.
And again, we talked about kind of the scrimmage warrior mentality over the past couple of weeks. And North Crowley's had 2 scrimmages, and they apparently looked great against one of the Mansfield schools, and then they looked great against Allen. But Alito looked great against South Lake Carroll, and I mean that's saying something as well. Trey Williams, I heard was incredible. They had a good running back who kind of came out of nowhere. We're going to have to keep our eyes on him. And their defense kept South Lake Carroll. It looks like they haven't fallen off on the defensive side of the ball. But I think about last year. year, Alito and Frisco Lone Star. And Alito had an incredible defense and all year until they played Lone Star. And Lone Star's athletes were able to just spread them out and take care of business. And when I think about what North Crowley's got coming back into Marion Mays and JT and JT Torres, and just so much speed on the edges, their running back and their running game. I don't see Alito being athletically able to keep up with North Crowley. And that just really reminds me of that Lone Star game that Alito looked great all year until they had to play a team that was athletically superior to an extent that was above and beyond what they had seen all year. And they're going to start that out with week 1. I think North Crowley could end up winning this game. The point spread says 19. I could see that being a legitimate thing. I was kind of going into this game thinking that, okay, maybe Alito will have a chance to compete with North Crowley, but even my Allen people are like, North Crowley looks really, really good. They don't look like they have taken a step back at all. They look even better than they looked last year. We hope we're so glad that North Crowley is going D2, so we're not going to have to see them in the playoffs. I think that says a lot. I might have underestimated North Crowley going into this offseason and what their coaching changes have done for them. But we'll see, because if they go out and they blow out an Alito team, I think that will give us our proof of concept right there. Maybe they need to be number 1 in that district. So give me North Crowley to win this game convincingly.
Yeah, I mean, I think I thought the same thing as you in the offseason because of the way they scheduled, and then the fact that they have Duncanville and Waxahachie. I was thinking maybe 4 losses, but I still thought they would go far in Division II. I don't know. I mean, you hear about that score, and it's just a scrimmage, but let's see what they got. And Torres is chopping at the bench. I believe he had to sit the whole year since that transfer did. He's ready to show and prove, and what better way than the first game of the year?
All right, remember, he lit it up as a sophomore against Burleson when he was at Burleson Centennial. Yep. So, I mean, he had some big numbers and he had to take a year off. And a lot of players don't do that. I mean, in my brain, once they said that he was not going to play, he was just going to go to a private school and be at Fourth All Saints or something. But no, he sat and he did it, and he is there and he is cleared. And I think he's got something to prove. And it sounded like Allen got a little bit of a brunt of that.
Yeah, he got a taste, just a taste. All right, talk to me about Highland Park, Louisville, and the controlled elements of the Star. This one should be a good one. We had talked to Randy Allen in the offseason, talking about how Buck Randall was his most accurate quarterback ever. I think he backtracked on that once he realized he coached Matt Stafford. But he is accurate. I mean, 2 straight 4,000-yard seasons. The guy's honing in on some sort of records this year for sure. And Louisville's got a new quarterback they got to break in.
And they got to break in a new quarterback, 3rd year for Buck Randall. And I got a chance to see Highland Park at the scrimmage against Plano East. And Highland Park looked really good in that scrimmage. And one thing that really impressed me with Buck Randall that I didn't really – I mean, he's always been a little bit of a scrambler. He's always been a little bit of a shifty in the pocket. He was able to do some things there, but he was full on, even though they were creating the pathways and the rules and the scrimmage where if you just get touched, the quarterback, they blow the play down. He was scrambling and outrunning some D1 Plano East linebackers and defensive linemen, and able to actually get some really good yards, even though they had the rule that you can't tackle him right there. And he threw a couple of deep long balls that were just absolutely beautiful. He looked to me like he was going to be a problem for 5A Division I this year. But Highland Park on the other side, and their offensive line looked way bigger than I remember them last year. So I think Highland Park, the strength and conditioning program, they bulked up a little bit. They've been eating those protein bars out at Highland Park, and they looked really good. But the one weakness I felt like with Highland Park was East was able to go back and up and down the field and run on them. So defensively, I feel like I've got some questions with Highland Park, but I feel like offensively, they looked really good. So I feel like this game has the potential to be a shootout, just because I feel like Louisville is going to be speedy on the edges, but I don't think they're going to be able to go up and down the field because their D1 talent that they've had the last few years on the offensive line isn't quite there. But their edges, their wide receivers, their safeties and secondary players are really, really good this year. But I don't know if that matches up really well against what Highland Park, what I saw anyway, what their strengths and weaknesses are. I think we're going to see a very fun game at the Star, but because of the fact that you've got those perfect conditions, AC weather, Buck Randall is not going to get worn down by any stretch of the imagination. I think Highland Park is a favorite in this game, and I think they're going to win this game in a shootout. I could see it being 1-2 scores. I think they're a convincing favorite in this game.
Oh, you're I modeled. disagrees with you. They think Louisville is a convincing favorite. By the way, I don't know if I've ever seen Louisville play at the Star. I'm probably wrong about that, but Highland Park almost feels like home away from home. They get 1 or 2 games there almost every postseason. All right, this game, Rockwall Heath at Denton Geyer, just had Zane Rowe on the show this past week. He's talking about getting 20 to 25 sacks this year. I'm not. Who am I to tell him he's not going to? The guy's nasty, and he's got 2 other nasty defensive ends there. Asked him about Rockwall Heath. Did not care about the fact he's going to give up bulletin board material, but he said, yeah, we're going to beat the crap out of him. AI says they're going to beat the crap out of him. What do you say?
I think Prosper Neal might have something to say about that.
I do too, but Zane does not think so.
But, at the same time, when Rockwall Heath played Duncanville or one of the team, whoever they played in 10-6A, they got the crap beat out of them when they're playing the big schools in the playoffs. And I think that Denton Geyer is going to be a big favorite. I hope Prosper Neal is able. I mean, we saw him last year, and he is incredible. He is somebody who can be elusive and make plays downfield. But, man, it's not like he's just got to deal with one edge. He's got to deal with 2 edges, and he's got to deal with the middle that's coming at him. And I think that Rockwall Heath, they have a new quarterback, or they have a new coach in Casey Dick, and they have a new scheme, and they've got a lot of new things that they've got to figure out. Whereas Denton Geyer, that defense, go downhill. It's just a bad time. I think Rockwall Heath will get better. I think they just got to stay healthy in this game. It's going to be hard when you're getting beat up because, like you said, you got basically 3 edge players who are trying to all beat each other for sacks and things like that. So you got more competition internally than sometimes you do externally. I think Denton Geyer is a big favorite in this game.
And they've played together for so long, too. Yeah. It's not a bunch of transfers coming in together.
And Carter Morgan, I mean, he's basically like Prosper Neal, too. So it's like, and they get to see him in boy, if Carter Morgan could survive practice, he can survive the game situations.
They wanted to give that job to Zephyr last year. Remember? I mean, they talked him up like nobody's business, and Carter Morgan said, no, that's all right. We can do a dual thing, and then I'm going to go ahead and take over down the stretch here because he proved himself. While we were talking, Prosper Neal kind of really reminds me of that Holloway kid at Melissa last year. They both do the same kind of things here, but, man, you run into a beast here with Geyer, so we'll see what happens. All right, moving right along, staying in Rockwall. They got a home game against Prosper. Man, that whole Prosper offensive line that was so great last year are all now getting ready to go to class for the first time in college because they're gone. So talk to me about who's replacing some guys and how do you think that game's going to be against Rockwall, who really needs to get to the postseason this year, I think.
Yeah, and there's so much we don't know about Prosper. I mean, you can kind of hear what people are saying about their scrimmages and what that we have in the pipeline in Tyler Albert and kind of what you could see on 7-on-7. But more than just about any other top 10 area team, they have so many questions. Like what is this team going to do? And how are they going to be able to fare? But at the same time, I felt like 3 or 4 years ago we had these same questions about Prosper, and then they had another young class come in. They just reloaded, and Tyler Moore found a way to answer those questions. And I feel like it was against probably Rockwall 4 or 5 years ago that they came out and like, okay, we're going to be okay. And I think Rockwall has all of those same questions. They've got Collins Jones. He was over at Heath. He's made that intra-district transfer over there. They've got that really good wide receiver brain. I'm having a mental brain, but you got Caden Castro coming in. They've got a lot of quality offensive players, but at the same time, their defense is got where I don't see anything on that defense where I'm like, okay, well, they're going to be able to shut a really good offensive line down. And Prosper, they may not have 5 D1 players anymore, but they're going to have 5 really good offensive line players that they're going to be able to wear out on an August and wear down Rockwall. I don't think Rockwall defensively is going to be able to compete with Prosper. This might be a good, if we knew who their players were going to be definitively, might be a really good fantasy players to kind of slot in there because I think they're going to get some big numbers against Rockwall. I believe in Prosper. I believe in the system. The players look like I see more top tier players from Rockwall, but I believe in Prosper's system. So all you can do in week 1 sometimes is trust the system. I trust Prosper's system.
Do you think this is a good space for Rockwall this year? Because now it's been a couple years. Maybe the expectations aren't obviously within Rockwall, the expectations are always going to be there, but maybe people are not on them as much as they have in the past, and this could be a time they could show somebody something.
But you said it. I think that's the most important thing. Internally, it hasn't changed.
No.
Internally, they are mad. Internally, they feel disrespected. Internally, I've got their assistant coaches yapping at me in DMs talking about Diggs. I cannot believe you don't understand what we've got coming on. That you don't understand what you're about to see. Well, of course I don't understand. I just know that you haven't been making the playoffs the last couple of years, and I know that district you're going to be in is not going to be forgiving. And you've got 6 coaches in that district who all have the same expectations, who believe that they can get there and get to the playoffs and make an extended run. But again, like we talk about, as good as everybody is in 10-6A, everybody in 11-6A is that much better when it comes to elite. So I feel like even though you're barking to get into the playoffs, your ceiling is still the second round of the playoffs. So I don't see any of these teams outside of Longview maybe able to make a big run out of things, despite the fact that they are really, really good teams, especially when we start talking about Garland and Richardson and Irving and 8-6A and 9-6A. These are all 6-7 teams that would all win the district in these districts, but at the same time, they're still not at that elite level. So Rockwall can be better, but still not be where they need to be competitive in this district and be competitive in the region. But you know what they can do? They can make a statement against Prosper and say, look at here, because remember last year they made a statement against North Crowley. I mean, North Crowley was a team that beat them by 50. Like, I could not believe how frustrated I was going to that North Crowley Rockwall game. You remember that was 70 to like 10 at halftime. And I'm just like, I'm watching JV football the second half. I could be doing anything. And then they turned it around against them. So Rockwall is a team that's got a lot of pride, a lot of integrity, and they are a very good team. But man, Prosper is just that as well. And I think offensive line is where Rockwall is not going to match up in the trenches.
All right, let's move on to Coppell and Hebron. Coppell's got to do stuff in the non-district because maybe their district's not as tough as it was before. They're favored by 22 according to the AI model here. They got a heck of a squad coming back, and Coach Wiley is very excited about it as we talked to him at Sawgrass.
You know, I got an email before we started our podcast where Kenny picked this as his game. He was very interested in. You know, he's like, I want to talk a little bit more about Hebron and Coppell. Maybe he sees something in the footage or from what he's hearing. But you know, he lives near Hebron, so maybe the people are getting in his ear and saying, "Hey, this kid is overachieving." And Brady Brock. I mean, you talk about a stat line. His stat line is better than Carter Zingelman's stat line. And this was 2 teams that were in the same district last year, so they were very familiar with each other. Antonio Wiley told the story on our podcast about how this game ended up into fruition. You know, but they were trying to play Lake Travis or somebody, and it kind of got canceled on them, and they ended up being like, okay, we're going to take on Hebron. Hebron needed them, so I think this could be a very interesting game. And it always feels like, even under the Wiley era, that Coppell is one of those teams that starts out slow. I feel like over the last couple of years, I joked about them playing Timber Creek, but Timber Creek has played them a lot closer than they should have the last couple of years. And then you look at their end of their regular season last year. Little Elm played them closer than they should have. Brownswell played them closer than they should have. Maybe Coppell is being a little bit overrated because they're in the district they're in and they're out of that 5-6A buzzsaw, and now they're kind of playing good but not great teams with the Plano and Richardson teams. But again, I think that they were so young last year. They felt like Prosper 2 years ago, or how I feel about Prosper this year. But what did they do? They just found a way to continue. They just reloaded with another D1 quarterback who was a sophomore. They reloaded with a lot of quality players. Aaron Isbell had a standout year last year. Jackson Eccles had a standout campaign last year for Coppell, and then Carter Zingelman. I feel like he mentioned in the podcast that we're going to see him run a little bit more. Yeah. And I think when you have an athlete like that, that's going to really prey upon a team like Hebron, who's probably not as fast in the secondary as they're going to need to be competitive in that district. So I feel like, I don't know if they're going to meet the 22-point model, but I feel like Coppell is a solid 2-score favorite.
And just to let you guys know, Hebron, we both agree, is a solid playoff team in 5-6A. They're a solid 3 at least. So that should be a decent game. I think Kenny did say he's going to be there, so that's why I wanted you to talk about it. So he wants you to do this research for him. All right, Lone Star's heading up to Royce City. Boy, Royce City really stepped up their non-district. They got rid of that Plano East team or something. I'm just kidding, Coach B. I'm giving it to Diggs, not you. I love Plano East. But now they're taking on Lone Star, flying. They feel like they should fly to Royce City. Driving all the way out there. They're ready to try to get back to that state championship game, and they start off with the 6A team.
And I ranted about this on our 5A Division One or 5A Division One podcast to get things started. And some of the feedback I got was a little bit quiet. Like, yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but we have something to prove to you. And you kind of mentioned a little bit of that mindset when you had Carice Hoyt come into the studio for his thing, that they're ready to prove something this year. And because of their district being, or because of their region having DeSoto and Lancaster and Highland Park and some of the quality teams, I feel like they're a little bit overshadowed, but the talent is undeniable. And I hear that the cupboard is full as well. We got a couple of freshmen and sophomores that we haven't seen on the stat line yet, that in a few weeks, kind of like Trey Wright, are going to be players that are going to be household names. And Trey Wright, the fact that he got injured in that game where he had those two just all-world weeks back to back to get to the state finals and then got hurt, I feel like Trey Wright is going to make a statement. They just have so many offensive pieces. But you know what? They had all those offensive pieces against Argyle and still played them within a score last year. I think Royce City is going to be able to go score for score with Lone Star. I think it's going to be a shootout, but I think Lone Star is just going to have too much at the end, because I've learned you do not bet against Trey Wright in the fourth quarter in a shootout, because he will put up some big numbers. He did it against Toledo. Unfortunately for Royce City, I feel like this is going to be a game where Royce City is going to be better because they lost, and they're going to be more widely thought of in the area because they lost. Now, if they come in there and get completely blown out of the water, we may have to quickly say, okay, they're back to 6. We can't trust Royce City. But as long as Royce City keeps it competitive for a half, stays within 7 to 14 points late, if Lone Star gets a window dressing touchdown, I think I'm going to come away looking at Royce City better than I came in starting the season against.
Yeah, it's about showing up right, not just getting bombed out. And I think by mid-season, it won't be sacrilegious to say that Trey Wright reminds me of Kyler Murray, and he could possibly have a Kyler Murray type career in high school. I know people don't want to hear that because, I mean, for the 20 years I'm here, he was the best player ever, but he's got those qualities, so we'll see. All right, Berkner against Trinity. They got a home game over there at Wildcat Ram. We can call it Ram Wildcat if we want. And Trinity is favored by 6 in this AI model. But what is your thoughts on this one?
This almost reminds me exactly of the Prosper and Rockwall game. When I'm looking at my research, I'm looking at Rockwall. When I looked at the Rockwall and Prosper thing, Prosper had like 2 players listed and Rockwall had like 10 players listed. And over here, I see 2 players listed for Euless Trinity, and I see about 10 to 12 players listed for Berkner, because there's so much that Berkner has coming back. And at the same time, I feel like it's the system. It's the system of Trinity that's going to wear down Berkner, because the one thing I consistently hear about Berkner from the scrimmages is they're fast, but they're undersized. And that's not something I heard. I mean, if there was a team that could line up against Duncanville size-wise, it's Trinity. And Trinity, they got their eyeball test when they played Duncanville, and from what I heard about the scrimmage feedback, they were just as big as Duncanville. They could handle that. So I think in August heat, Trinity's players are going to wear down Berkner. I feel like Berkner is going to have speed, going to have edges, but can they hit home runs when they have the opportunity? They're going to have to get out on Trinity big and get out on them, because if it's a wear fest, if Trinity's able to 4 yards in the cloud of dust for 48 minutes, I don't think Berkner is going to be able to compete in that in this weather with that kind of offense. So I'm going to take Trinity to win this game. It's going to be a slugfest, like a 28-21 sort of a game, but I believe in that system. I believe in the Mac. Coach Lineweaver's kid, Mac Lineweaver, I think he's going to be able to run that offense in a way where we're going to see a situation where like Trinity has 70 plays and Berkner maybe has 30 or 40. And I just don't think in the fourth quarter that's going to fare very well for Berkner's defense.
Yeah, and we talked to Coach Bryan about that situation. I was like, well, what are we going to do about the line here? They're undersized. He's like, I don't know what to tell you, man. We're going to have to figure it out. That's what we have to figure out. And they got to figure out in 5 games before that break, because they got Capel and Lake Highlands before they hit the break. So those are going to be a tough 5 games if they don't figure it out. That's for sure. All right, Lake Ridge against Walnut Grove. I like Lake Ridge. If Lake Ridge was in any other district besides 11-6A, they might be fighting for a home playoff game. But it's going to be tough in there, and it's going to be interesting to see what Walnut Grove does when they bump up to 6A and they bring in a new quarterback.
And one of the scrimmage reports I got was that Walnut Grove just beat Plano up and down. And maybe that doesn't say anything. Maybe we're going to find out that Plano ISD is what everybody says they are, and Richardson's just going to roll through them. And it's we're propped up by McKinney, just like they were propped up by Irving the last couple of years, and it's not very good. But for me, this is one of the ones where I look at the AI model and I'm like, what are you doing,
I don't
computer?
understand that.
Like,
Yeah.
like I don't understand how you can. You don't. Do you not know who Deshaun Edwards is? Do you not know who Jaden Cotton is? Do you not know who Jaden Evans is? I mean, come on. We got almost 6,000 to 7,000 yards of returning offense. When we talked about, when I gave that statistic, you're like, it's like Richland from a couple of years
Yeah.
ago. This is like Richland from a couple of years ago against a Walnut Grove who lost their best player in Cam Newton, who lost their second best player to Haynes Hackney, who's going to be now at Argyle. And yeah, they're going to have a really good offensive line. They're getting a lot of the players from Prosper that kind of split up, but they have to me, they have a lot to prove. And Lake Ridge has they're on a statement tour. So for me, look at that minus 16 and flip it on the other side.
Yeah.
I think Lake Ridge is a solid 2-score favorite in this game.
Yeah, we need to slap AI across the mouth on that one. All right, West Mesquite at Mansfield Timberview. West Mesquite's going to break in a new head coach. They're probably still going to be a favorite in their district, but they're going up against a Timberview team that's got a lot of preseason hype. A lot of preseason hype coming from other 5A Division II coaches as well.
Yeah, I know it's not necessarily relevant to this thing, but I'm very excited in a couple of weeks when Timberview plays Richardson, because I think that could give us some statements. It's one of those games where I wonder, why is Richardson scheduling 5A Division II? Because you can't look good in that situation. You lose to a 5A Division II, it's bad, but then you beat them. Well, you should have beat them. They're 5A Division II, so it's really a no-win situation for a team like Richardson scheduling a team like Timberview. But it's like we finally get to see what Coach Coleman's going to be able to do over there, and what he's going to be able to get out of his team with Braylon Barnett and Stephen Hall. And everybody keeps saying that this Timberview team is faster than we think. They're better than we think, because it felt like for a couple of years they had really good defenses, but then their offense just couldn't get anything going on. This year, everybody's talking about that's taken care of. Their offense is going to put up big numbers this year. Then you have West Mesquite, who lost their coach, but we got to figure out how they're going to rebuild. I really think Coach Jackson was one of the cogs that made them go. He is such a special coach. And I know they've got some really good players coming back. They got Kentrell Blackshear coming back, Samaji Jordan. So they've got some elements and pieces that they've got coming back. But speed from 1 to 22, I think Timberview is going to run them out of the water. I was watching them against that Creekview game. It was like a Friday. Were you at that Thursday game at 3:30 when like it felt like at times they looked good, but at times they didn't know how to get out of their own way. And now they're going to play a quality team like Timberview, who's I feel like going to be executing at a high level. I think Timberview is going to win this game big and remind West Mesquite that, that district was a big part of your success for the last couple of years.
Let's talk about this one. This game's so good, it got James to wake up from his show and say, hey, I want this one. I want to shoot this game. And we'll have James Harris out there. And against Colleyville Heritage, it's rare for me to see Anna down here in this neck of the woods, and I have to go up to Oklahoma. Sorry to your boy up there in that region. But this is going to be a good one, because Anna's taken in some talent in the transfer portal. And Colleyville Heritage, you've heard from Coach Edwards a lot. They like their defense this year.
They do. And I mean, they also like their offense in Lucas Sunwall, and they apparently scored quite at will against Melissa in their upset on their scrimmage. But to me, I don't believe in their offense. I feel like I look at how much they've got coming up, and I've heard from their coaching staff about the fact that they're like, well, you're going to see, okay, show me against Anna. Show me, because Anna's got a very suspect defense. So you're going to be able to show me what you got against Anna, because I think Anna is going to be able to score 42 to 49 on Colleyville Heritage, because Anna has owned Colleyville Heritage the last couple of years in the playoffs. And I don't see what the AI model understands. This is one of those things I feel like I need to train AI on. It's kind of what I got mad about it when I was looking at the end of last year. I was like, do you not understand that Richardson lost to Plano last year in the game when they actually played each other? We already saw what happened. Anna has played Colleyville Heritage the last couple of years and did not struggle with them. They were able to take care of business against the Colleyville Heritage team. I remember 2 years ago, they like blew them out in the fourth quarter, like beat them by 25 or something. I mean, and that was a Colleyville Heritage team that had D1 talent all over the place at key positions. Colleyville Heritage to me is a relatively unknown team this year. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Lucas Sunwall and Gerard Wiley and Ryan Lloyd and a couple of those players. But man, Peyton Miller is going to bully their best two defensive linemen because they are not big on their defensive line. You got Cormon Houston, who everybody's talking about coming from the basketball court, who is going to be a really good wide receiver. Cam Pettyjohn, who came up from McKinney, who's a really good player. Jules Carter, who came from Cedar Hill. Everybody's leaving Cedar Hill at this point, whether it's early or late. I think Anna is going to have big win over Colleyville Heritage. I like them by 3 scores. I think they're going to make a statement against Colleyville Heritage.
And this Colleyville Heritage is probably another one of those teams I can put in the Trinity, Arlington, Martin, Cedar Hill category that were a shoe-in for everything. But they're still a shoe-in for the playoffs. It seems like every year they're in there, but where are they going to fall? All right, let's talk about Arlington and Byron Nelson. Coach Peach over there at Arlington taking his boys over there on a Thursday night to take on Byron Nelson, who was another team that lost a big player late in the year with Tua heading off to IMG Academy. Tell me what you feel about this one.
I don't think that's going to impact them that much. What I learned about Byron Nelson last year is that their system is kind of like what I've been talking about with Prosper. Their system is steady. Like they're just going to reload. And I mean, I look at what they got coming back and Nolan Hawkins and Colin Janice. And yeah, losing a player like Toa is going to be a big loss. He's a big factor there, but all they do is reload. I don't see any Almanzas. Maybe we got a younger Almanza who's going to be coming up at some point who will help this team out. But Byron Nelson should be, if Byron Nelson is a number 2 team in their district, they will win this game convincingly. If Arlington gives them a very competitive game, a closer game than I expected, Keller Central has, to me, that gives me a cue that Keller Central may end up being a number 2 seed in this district because, maybe Byron Nelson finally fell off where they had been over the last 5 to 6 years. But I think Byron Nelson should take care of business. I don't see that big name coming back where I can look at him and go, hey, they got this 5,000-yard passer coming up. But I didn't see that last year, and they took care of business against Friendship and Louisville in non-district, and they looked great. And by the end of the year, they were playing really competitive football. I think didn't Geyer have to kick a field goal to walk them off in that game?
I believe so.
So, I mean, this is a team that programmatically, they're going to be okay.
Is that a word? Programmatically?
Programmatically. Spell it in Scrabble.
I'm going to have to. Yeah, that's how you win the Scrabble. I know that, but it's pulling out words that ain't nobody use. All right, Teddy Ball Game's going to go to a game this week, and this is where it's going to be. It's going to be at Lovejoy. Frisco Reedy at Lovejoy. This game is close according to the AI model here. This is Todd Dodds. I think this is year 4, isn't it? I think he's – is it 3? I feel like it's 4.
I feel like you corrected me last time. I was like, this is year 2 of Todd Dodds. You're like, it's 3 Diggs. Like,
okay. Well, then it's year 3, and I'm trying to correct myself.
I know. So now you think it's 4. Who knows what it is? Feels like he's been there forever. But, still, we haven't seen the results. And that's just, regardless, 2, 3, 4, the results have not been there for Lovejoy, at least what I've expected it to be. But again, what I know that they're going to have is they're going to have a solid quarterback, and their offensive line, is up there probably in the top 5 to 10 good offensive lines. They got 2 6'6" kids on the offensive line. I mean, it's like Jaden Thompson is going to be a big player. So when I look at Lovejoy, I feel like they're going to be okay. Lincoln Harn, though, he had an incredible year last year, but he's pretty much all they got. I feel like Reedy lost their defense over the last year, and that was really their strength. I feel like Lovejoy has to win this game. Reedy is going to be okay either way. They're in a district. They're slotted in a position to where I think they're going to be okay. Lovejoy, in the district that they're in, they got to show me something because they're going to have to deal with Argyle and a very competitive district. I feel like Lovejoy has to win this game at home. They got to show me something. I'm going to take Lovejoy to win this game. I think they could win this game by 2 scores.
Interesting. Hey, this one was a battle last year because it had the 2 best running backs in the area when you took Christian Rhodes against J.O. Now we're flipping it over to Forney. Tell me what you think about Forney against Lake Highlands because there's a lot of graduation with those Jackrabbits.
When I mentioned, I gave the metaphor of looking at the Prosper versus Rockwall and Berkner versus Hebron, and feeling like you got this on this side and this on the other side, all the players coming back. With this, it's like what I would feel like if we had Trinity against Prosper. Like, you just don't know anything about either of these teams at this point. But I know that a lot of scuttlebutt coming out of Forney says that they have a really good running back coming in. They got a couple of really good offensive linemen. We know that Jordan Caraway and Mason Joshua are two big names to watch there. And we know on Blake Highlands, they've got those wide receivers over there and Franklin Evans and Conrad Ince. So it's like you got pieces, but who's going to be the most complete team? I think going to Forney and winning is a really hard task. And I feel like Lake Highlands had a lot more questions than Forney did, even last year. So I feel like Forney is going to win this game at home. But this is going to be one of those games I can't wait to dig into the box score. I might even pull it up on Huddle and watch this, because there's so many unknowns about both teams, that I really want to see it. And this was the game I went to last year on a Thursday night to kind of kick off my season, and I got a lot out of that. So this is a game I wish I could watch, and I'm going to find a way to watch it.
Well, you'll find a way. You'll definitely find a way. Well, there's a Will, there's a Diggs. All right, Thursday night at the Star. Neo Be Easy is going to be at this one to see Jay-Sean Gibson and Richland take on Frisco Wakeland. Now it's 6A against 5A, so it might be a tight situation here for Wakeland. If they don't win this one, they're favored by 19, of course, the AI model. I don't think it's going to be that big, but if they don't find a way, then people will be like, okay, that's why we're not predicting you to make the playoffs in 5, 6, 8.
And it's weird because I've heard from some Wakeland fans who are thinking like they feel like they're an underdog in this game. And I feel like, no, this is a game you have to win. If you're going to be a team that makes the playoffs in 6A, you got to win a game against Richland. I mean, so you are the favorites in this game, and you have everything to lose because you're scheduling down, and you're scheduling down against a team that's got Jay-Sean Gibson, who could come out there and single-handedly beat you. So I feel like Richland is in a kind of an all-win situation. But I agree with you. When you look at that model, you just look at Wakeland by 19. No, I mean, they may win this game, and they probably should win this game if they're going to be competitive in 6A, but it's going to be a close game. I feel like it's going to be a shootout. I feel like we're going to see a lot of points on the board. I consider taking Jay-Sean Gibson as my fantasy pick because I feel like there's going to be a lot of numbers that are going to be put up. But I think Wakeland has got a little bit more depth. And I feel like the fact that Richland got exposed every single time they played a good offense last year, the one thing I feel like that Wakeland's got going for them is going to be their offense this year. So I feel like Wakeland in a shootout should win like a 42-35 kind of a game. And if it goes wrong either way, I feel like Wakeland just go ahead and I'm going to flip flop them. I might drop them down to 6 or 7 in this district if they can't beat a team like Richland.
Interesting. A lot going on there for you Wolverines fans. All right, here's the game that I'll be at. Terrell against Arlington Seguin. I'm going to be there because Terrell's been put in a district that every single game is way out east, and I'm just not going out that far out east. So if I want to catch the squad, I'll wait till they're in town here. And Coach Sedbury even told me in a text a little while ago that wasn't a big fan of the district he was put in. And I can understand why with the way gas prices are heading way out east. So tell me what you feel about this one. These are both playoff teams in 5A over the last couple of years.
I feel like Terrell's got more coming back. They got more known knowns than what I got Seguin coming back with. Seguin's got a lot of infrastructure players coming back. I mean, Kadarius Trotter obviously is a big piece that you can build around with Arlington Seguin. Riley Lewis is back. Kyle Johnson, the returning sack leader, is back. But how do you replace Chevy? I drove my Chevy to the levee, but the water was dry. And I think Terrell, when we looked at bracketology, they're kind of looking at maybe a rematch against Sauk and getting back and saying something to that. I actually think Terrell is the favorite in this game. I think because Arlington Seguin just has too many unknowns, I'm taking Terrell to win this game by a score. It's going to be tough. I think it's going to be back and forth. Terrell, I like the fact that they're testing themselves early, but it's sad that we had to give them out to East Texas. You're not going to see Terrell in our ranking. This is not because we don't like him, but we had to give them up. We had to give them in Greenville up this year to East Texas. Sorry, guys. I don't play that mess. If you're not in, we sell you like Stephenville. If you're not with us, you're against us.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Longview makes it, though. Well, they're in the 10A, 6A district. Now I don't want to hear it. All right, let's move on. This is one of the main events across the state here. Sauk getting to play Richmond Randall again, despite Randall going up to 5A Division I. They're going to play this game at Prairie View A&M. And this model here, Rich Randall was ranked as the winner by 7 points, is predicted to win by 7. They do have one of the best players in all the land in LWC, but man, it's hard to go against Sock. I don't care if they're on the road or not. And in a game like this, they turn it up.
This is again like AI model. Did you not see what happened last year? Last time they played each other, like just literally the last football game they played. We already saw this. Don't kick it deep, Todd. Do not kick it deep. I just like. Hopefully you got your lesson out of that. But when I was reading about the Cedar Hill and Duncanville and South Oak Cliff, everybody was talking about Sock. It was Sock, how good they looked. I don't know what you're hearing about Randall from your Houston world, but I'm not picking against Sock, and I'm certainly not picking against Sock early after what I've heard they've been able to do in non-district. I think losing a coach like Kyle Ward is going to be a big loss, but Coach Spencer is a incredible coach. I don't think he would have left that unless he knew that they were in good hands with Coach Spencer. And I feel like Coach Spencer's got something to prove. I think Sock is going to kick the, I can't say the language because I know I think Sock is going to win this game convincingly. I think it's going to look like what they do to P&G in the playoffs the last couple of years, where we're kind of scrolling on our phones in the third and fourth quarter in this game. Sock, big for me. Now you give me the Houston side of things.
I'm going to say Sock wins, but I'm leaving it at that. I'm not putting all these crazy adjectives in there like big and a blowout because I just can't do that with LWC. They still got a decent line. They're getting a new quarterback in there that's supposed to be able to throw some, so maybe it'll keep it from everybody stuffing the box there, but they're still going to. So I still feel like Sock's going to win, but I don't know about big. I don't think it's going to be big. All right, Jenks is coming to town. They're going to run the Cotton Bowl to take on South Lake Carroll on a Thursday night. And you were just telling me off camera that Jenks hasn't been looking very good of late.
Yeah, I was like, I was trying to figure out who I should use for my fantasy picks and trying to figure out some elements there. So I was like, okay, well, who are the best receivers coming back? And the number one receiver coming back in yardage was from South Lake Carroll. But, you play out-of-state teams. I feel like, a couple of years ago, didn't Bixby beat the heck out of South Lake Carroll or something? So some of those Oklahoma, when we had an Oklahoma versus maybe there'd be Timberview or something, but it felt like the last time we had Oklahoma versus Texas, we didn't do too well against that. But then I kind of looked at what Jenks did last year, and they lost like the 2 games they played against really good talent. They gave up 60 something points, and they lose their best player coming back. So I'm like, okay, I think South Lake Carroll is going to be able to offensively put up some points against Jenks. And if we get into a shootout, there's a lot of questions about South Lake Carroll on the defensive side of the ball, but we know Lee Munn, he can work with that. It's just like, who's going to be the quarterback? Who's next man up? We know we got 3 D1 receivers, but who's going to distribute it to them? I think South Lake Carroll is going to be okay. So in the Cotton Bowl, I know you're not looking forward to the Cotton Bowl next Saturday, but maybe on a Thursday night, you might be willing to throw a camera out that way. I think Carroll's going to take care of business. I think we're going to see a lot of points on the board, which is what you're going to see here in a little bit. But I think Carroll takes care of business by a couple scores.
Well, I think this one's going to be fun, and I wish I could see it. I think I'll be at the Louisville Highland Park game while this one's going on, but I do have a TiVo, so why don't I just set that up, a DVR of some sort. DeSoto heading down to Florida to take on St. Thomas Aquinas, and Coach Mathis was preparing for that, and we were talking to him about Sherrod Baker, and that was 2 months ago. So he's got a lot of time to prepare for this. And somebody told me it was the end of an era. But I don't know if it is, and I'm not going to slam my hat down about it either.
Well, we know last time DeSoto went out of state and played a powerhouse, it was the end of an era in my head. It was their second straight 40-point loss, and I wrote them off. But again, I appreciate what Mathis is doing in games like this, kind of what Coach Todd tries to do and what Samples tries to do to get them ready for that week 14, week 15, week 16. And doing some research on St. Thomas Aquinas, again, AI can be wrong. This is what I was like, AI, tell me about the St. Thomas Aquinas team. And they said their only loss since 2024 came against Mater Dei, 26-23 in this very spot, in this very classic that they had had going on, and we know Matter Day, one of the best teams in the nation, fields an IMG-like all-star team. They've got the number 4 recruit in the nation, and Mark Matthews. Wyatt Smith is a 6'6", 240-pound edge player. They got the number 1. They got one of the top wide receivers in the nation. They got one of the top cornerbacks. They got like 3 D1 wide receivers. They got 2 or 3 D1 offensive linemen. And I look at that across the board, and the fact that it's going to be in Florida, it's going to be out there, and they've won 7 straight state championships out there in Florida. I think Coach Mathis is going to get his bulletin board material, and he's going to get it in an impossible situation. I think St. Thomas Aquinas is going to win this game just because it's just too much talent. I mean, I feel like you got a Florida all-star team out there. DeSoto may legitimately be the best Texas team, but I feel like because of the rules across the AAU state of the fact that they can do NIL and all these rules and things like that, it just puts them on a different playing field. It's like the SEC versus the Big 12. Yeah, DeSoto is Texas good, and they're 5AD1 good, but I don't know that they can compete with these players and these rules. I think it's St. Thomas Aquinas' game. And with all due respect, I'm not calling it an end of an era. You're still looking at a state champion in DeSoto right now.
I'd like to see Sherrod do some stuff on the national TV audience, but we'll see. St. Thomas Aquinas, I believe, is ranked somewhere between 4 and 6 in the nation. They got a squad, like you said. So there's a reason they put these showcase games together. So let's hope DFW shows out. All right, Lancaster's heading down to Houston, taking on Galena Park North Shore. North Shore is, by our coaches poll down in Houston, is surprisingly picked number 1. I say that sarcastically because the coaches always pick them number 1. So it's going to be a tough journey down there for Steven Jackson and his new squad, and I do not think they have much of a shot here, but it's going to be interesting. So what do you feel about it?
I mean, it feels like year in and year out, Lancaster goes through these really hard schedules. And, last year they had one of the hardest schedules in the state of Texas, and their schedule showed it 4 and 6. And even though I think they would have been 10 and 2 under different schedules, it was enough where they're like, we need a new coach. We got to do something because this is not to our standard here. They bring a program builder and Coach Jackson over here, and he has to inherit the fact that they got to play a team like North Shore. So like you said, you got North Shore 6A number 1. You give us the Houston perspective, because we know Lancaster's got a lot of players, but I worry about their depth. And North Shore, I saw the Dave Campbell's crew were picking them to win state. Kind of 2 out of 3 of their pickers were saying this is a 6A Division 1 state champion, number 1 team in the state. I don't do Houston, so you tell us, since you have to do Houston.
I think they have a solid defense that's going to be able to corral the speed that Lancaster brings down here. They got a great linebacker whose name obviously escapes me. They're breaking in a new quarterback, but every time they break one in, he turns out to be something special, and he's usually there for 2 to 3 years. They're good at all positions, and the fact that they toughen up their non-district and they go to a district that I think may even be better than 11-6A, if not just a little bit less. They're going to be ready when it comes to state championship time, and they're definitely going to be ready for game 1 here. So I would pick North Shore. That 15-point spread seems good, maybe even a tad low.
Does North Shore, how do they get a home field advantage with how they play? Or does it not matter? Is it like Duncanville, DeSoto?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it doesn't really matter. They're going to do their thing regardless. But they do have a nice crowd when they're there, but it's not going to really matter. I believe Lancaster actually played at North Shore Stadium 2 years ago when they played LaPorte, or 3 years ago in the playoffs. So I believe they played there. Or else there was Sheldon ISD, or whatever you call him, Sheldon King, or I forget what you just made up.
I don't even know. SECISD.
Yeah, exactly. You get confused about the C part of it.
One of those CESI. I like North Shore big too, and I think Lancaster is just it's too much. It's like they're having a Spider-Man meme, but North Shore's bigger, faster. It's like everything they are, that their benefit is North Shore's just got a little bit more of all of it. So I feel like it's going to be one of those games that's going to humble Lancaster, but it's going to be one of the games that hopefully will get them ready for district, where they don't sleep on anybody in that district. Because as we talked about, their district is a really good district. And if they go into it like they did last year, where they're turning the ball over and playing sloppy, it can get away from them too.
Real quick. All right, what do you think about this point spread, Diggsy?
The AI model and I had a really long conversation about this. This is what I do at nights now. You know, instead of tucking my wife and kids to bed, I just yell at my AI model and I'm like, "What are you thinking about here?" It actually has Mesquite Horn as like a top 25 team in the area, and you know, I don't see it. I think this is a really competitive game. I think this is going to go. One of the scores I was telling some people about Plano East this year. This is one of the first years that legitimately their first 9 games. I have no clue what we're going to get out of it because I feel like they have 9 coin flips ahead of them. That I could see them winning. I could see them losing. Coppell, I think Coppell is a solid favorite, and I don't think anybody who has seen Plano East on film or whatever would disagree with that fact that they're going to be right there. Plano East deficiencies this year is depth, depth and size at places. But Mesquite Horn, they've got a new coach. Coach Boone is coming over there. They lost some transfers out. So we don't really know what Mesquite Horn is going to have. They're going to have some athletes. They're going to have some skill players. But I feel like Plano East has got the players, the D1 talent that should get them out of this game. I see Trey Selden. I think he's going to have 200 plus yards. I think Javon Rogers, a couple of sacks in this game. Jordan Stafford, Kareem Pittman. I think these are players that are going to get to introduce themselves. It's going to be a Thursday night at Hanby, but I think Plano East is going to win this game, maybe by double digits.
Double digits.
So AI model going to correct itself real quickly.
Take that, AI. We ain't talking about Iverson. All right, well, that's all the games we're going to talk about, but there is one thing that we always do every year. The last couple of years is high school fantasy football. Me and Diggs pick a quarterback, receiver, running back. Each week, we cannot pick the same guy twice. At least we can't specifically. I mean, I can pick who Diggs pick this week, next week if I wanted to. In the past 2 years, I believe, Diggs, you've won 7. You've gone 7-4, and I've gone 4-7. It hadn't been very good. I'm expecting a little better showing. Maybe I'll get over 500. If I did, I win. That'd be pretty sweet. But maybe I should just shoot for 5-6. Let's shoot for 5-6 first. But it's week 1. We don't know nothing about nothing. So we're going with our proven people. At least that's what Diggsy is. Here's Diggsy's quarterback this week, Trey Wright.
I mentioned when I was talking about this game, I feel like more than anybody, Trey Wright wants to make a statement, and because I think Royce City is good enough that this is to me like one of the times you use Trey Wright if you want to get him for 48 minutes and you want to get him at his best and you want to get him at his freshest and you want to get his max production until the playoffs start. I feel like this is the time to burn him because you want to save players strategically, but for Trey Wright when they get into district and they're playing all the Frisco messes and getting in there, he's going to go in there for a half, get his 280 to 320 yards and be done with it. I think Trey could get me 600 today in this game against Royce City. So I'm going to use him early. I think we're going to get some playoff numbers out of him early. So give me Trey Wright to bounce back for Lone Star against a really good Royce City defense, but I think that's what's going to make him have a good numbers because what was his numbers against a really good Alito defense? 600-700 yards. So I think that that's going to motivate him to play his best and to play for 48 minutes. I think the question, can Royce City score on Lone Star to make it a track meet? And for me, yes, they can.
Yes, they can. Well, I'm kind of using that method. I think this man, Isaiah Taylor, has something to prove after what happened throughout the summer, and expectations are sky high here with him and that team. He's got to get off to a good start. They're playing Thursday against the Plano West team, and I think he's going to show it with his arm, his legs. I think they're going to keep it going to let people know who they have at Keller Central. I mean, you're throwing out 600 there for Trey Wright, so I got to get at least 400 here somehow or 350 just to stay in the game if that's what's going on. But I like Isaiah Taylor. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's doing. We didn't talk about this game, but they're the flavor of the month over there in the Keller ISD because of what they've done in the offseason and the fact that they got both the Taylor boys back.
But you can see down there on the model does pick Keller Central over Plano West. So,
right. All right, talk about your running back. There's a Plano East guy. How about that? A guy who I always mispronounce his name too, like a dummy.
Trace. Call him Bump like we do it. He busted. He's got some scrimmage highlights against Highland Park where he's taking it to the house. I saw some practice highlights where he's hurdling kids. I think Trace Sheldon is going to Selden, not Sheldon, by the way. I probably that's probably my bad. I put an H or autocorrect, but Trace Selden. We're always getting this kid's name wrong. What are we doing, Ward? We cannot be good to our guy Trace Selden.
We can't catch a break, but I'll fix it while you talk. Go ahead.
Can't catch a break, but I think what Plano East is going to want to do is feature him, kind of establish the line, and then let Josh Gordon come back through and dink and dunk and do things. I think the last couple of years, Plano East, when they've had these kind of 50-50 games, their running back has been able to go 200 plus yards, and I think he's that guy this year. I think he's going to get 30, 35 touches, and that's what I want to see in week one when I'm still learning about some of these other players and being able to, who's going to give me 350, who's going to give me 400. I think Trace can give me 200 on week one. So I'm going to take Trace for my week one pick.
He is a very shifty back that I enjoyed against that Plano West game, watching him play. Now, had they not turned the ball over all night long, they probably would have got that one. All right, I'm going with Julian Ashley. To their core, Terrell is a running team, and he's the guy this year. So I'm looking for him to have a big game against Arlington Seguin. We both admitted that that's going to be a fairly close game. So see what we can get here.
Now, is our rule going to be something to the effect of we can pick East Texas teams?
I'm not counting as East Texas, man.
I'm just wondering.
Listen, when you did your district picks from years ago, you would pick Terrell all the time. Now it's not their fault they got put in the East Texas district, but they are a DFW squad. Go call Jamie Foxx if you got a problem with that.
So when I pick Jaden Herndon for a wide receiver,
that's not going to work, man, because that is too far east. We're talking about the location of the school, and the location's right there. So I can't pick no Crandall players or anything like that.
Crandall's in the DFW district. I'm just giving you. I don't care, but you remember this when I get some of my.
If you get Herndon in there, I'm done with you.
I don't want to get texts from you about that.
You will get texts. I'm done with you. All right, here we go. Receiver. You're going with a proven commodity, and you just told me they're going to score 60 on Jinx.
I think they're going to put up big numbers. I think their quarterback is going to give us a little bit of a lesson on why he's going to be okay. And Jinx defensively doesn't look great from what I can ascertain. It's an Oklahoma school. I'm just going by what they did last year and what they've got coming back. And when they played the Bixby's of the world, they got 60 put up on them. I think Carroll is going to answer back because we talked about how Lone Star has been having to stew on that loss. Well, Carroll's been having to stew on that DeSoto loss for a little bit of a while now too. So I think they're going to come up with big numbers. I think they're going to feed all the receivers. I think we could see the quarterback go 450, 500 yards. Gunner, that's the one thing that I've seen in this game, that wide receiver is variable. You could put a top tier guy on there and he can get, 3 catches with 2 touchdowns for 70 yards. Well, that doesn't move the scoreboard a little bit, but I think Blake is going to move the scoreboard for me. I think he's going to get me some big yards.
Yes, we're going to say they got a lot of options there. So I don't know if they're going to just hone in on your boy, or as Panther Creek hones in on Sakura Cooper, new player over there. He wants to show and prove for Frisco. They're playing Heritage. It's not been known as a defensive juggernaut. I'm looking for a big night here for Sakura.
I had him on my final.
There you have it, man. Did you? Well, I'm glad I beat you to it. Well, actually, we both came out at the same time. All right, that's perfect. We'll let you know what their scores are next week. I'm sure Diggs will be 1-0 by next week. That's just the way it always goes with this thing. But I'm giving it my best shot, people. Golly. All right, that's it.
If you don't mind, if you'll let me sell myself for a half of a second. This week on our podcast network, you're going to see 2 episodes of Small School Diggsy drop. You're going to see my preseason preview, which I taped a couple days ago. It'll probably be released Monday, Tuesday. And then you're going to see this on that, but small schools, you'll see the little ticker down there. You'll see some graphics because it's just me and myself and a microphone talking small school football. So we're going to break down some of the small school games. So if you didn't see any 4A, 3A, 2A games and you were like, what's going on? Tune in to Small School Diggsy this week on the Inside High School Sports Podcasting Network, and we will talk all the small games. In fact, You got Lindsey Munster this week. That's where you needed to send Neil Beasley to. Instead of letting him have air conditioning at the Star, you needed to send him to the, what they call that, the Kraut Bowl or something.
Kraut Bowl,
he needed to go to the Kraut Bowl and get a nice little ice cream, a blizzard, and just enjoy him some sauerkraut, a sauerkraut blizzard. He could have had himself some fun, but no.
I had to cater to him. Got to cater to what the big man wants over there. And if you want to know what's going on with Springtown Brock, I'm sure Diggsy will talk about that in Small School Diggsy. I'm looking forward to that. I know we got a big following for small school stuff, so I'm glad you're giving them a platform to give your opinions out on that. I'm sure that's going to be very successful. I appreciate you joining me, Diggs. Y'all get out to a game, man. We're starting 100 degrees, so you know it's football weather. Let's go out and see a game, and thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week.